Hello everybody, Prince LPJ here, welcoming you to this Phasmophobia video. This video is from a stream I did a few weeks ago where a friend of the stream popped in and asked questions about how I knew different ghost types, and I sort of explained ghosts, their behavior, that sort of thing. However, I feel like I did a bad job at doing it, so throughout this video there will be little annotations down below. Oh, not annotations, but words, little captions expressing better detail about ghosts. But I figured I'd just post this video because, friend gave me the idea for the video and I just took that portion of the stream and put it here. So yeah, hope you enjoy, and comment if I left anything out. I have learned a lot from Phas, and I've learned stuff since making that stream, so this is all that I know. If there's anything I missed, feel free to correct me. Anyway, enjoy the video, and I'll see you all next time. I can do a crash course on easiest way to tell ghosts. Banshees will only have one target at a time. They will hunt based off of their target sanity. So in theory, you could have the target hide in a room with the lights on. You think I'm doing great? Thank you, Chris. In theory, you can have the target hide in a room with the lights on, keep their sanity high. You get everyone else can have their sanity drained down to nothing, and the ghost will never hunt. But that's only if you know it's a banshee, and you know who the target is. On apocalypse settings, the only way I'd be able to figure out if it's a banshee is if I'm not in the ghost room and I use a motion sensor. If the motion sensor goes off and then I don't get a random EMF too, it would be a banshee. Diane, this one, when near players is, it'll either be super slow or super fast. If the player is standing still, this ghost will be moving slow, but if players are moving, it'll be fast. When it's not near players, it'll be normal speed. Oh, fucking demon. The only way to tell this thing on Apocalypse is to use a timer. If it hunts after, between 20 and 30 seconds after it finished a hunt, it's a demon, because demons can hunt again at a minimum of 20 seconds later. Dio, as I said, this thing always knows where you are. If it's not near a player, it'll be super fast. Once it's near a player, it'll be super slow. On Apocalypse settings, you are just slightly faster than a Dio. Just slightly. But if you trip up on something, you will die. You cannot hide from a Dio. Galu, on Apocalypse settings, I've got no way to test this. Apocalypse starter items. But a Galu can become enraged when a defensive item is used on it. So if you smudge it, if you you will die. Yeah, you will die if you get tripped up trying to outrun a Dio on Apocalypse. The Galu, if you use an item on a defensive item, so crucifix, smudges, or salt, it will become enraged. When enraged, it will no longer step through salt. Smudges only affect it for a shorter amount of time, and the crucifix has a shorter range. After it hunts when enraged, it'll become weakened, in which case these things have more of an effect on it. When enraged, it's slightly faster. When weakened, it's slightly slower. If it's in neither of those states, it's normal speed. When in its weakened state, it has to have a defensive item used on it again to move it up to its normal state again, and then it has another defensive item to enrage it. But once it's enraged, once it finishes an enraged hunt, it'll go down to its weakened hunt. Oh god, Goryo. These things are fucking hell. Gorios will never change favorite room. That is the only tell for a Goryo. So, for Apocalypse settings, The only way you're gonna be able to tell that it's a Goryo is if you spend like an hour in the building and it always hunts from the same room over and over and it never changes room. Goryo. Hantus, faster in cold temperatures, slower in warm temperatures. On Apocalypse, everywhere's cold, so it's hard to determine. If the breaker is off, it will have like frost breath when it's hunting. So if you actually like are looking on a video camera, like say you're playing multiplayer, you're looking at a video camera and your friend goes and hides from a Hantu and you see breath coming from the ghost, it's a Hantu. Or this thing. Or that one. Jen. Oh, also, fun fact about the Hantu, it will never turn on the breaker as well. So if the breaker turns off, the Hantu can never turn it back on. You have so many Hantus. I do enjoy the Hantu in normal gameplays because they are slow in warm areas, so you can outrun a Hantu. Oh, that's another thing. Diane and Hantu will not gain a line of sight speed. Yeah, yeah. If you see frost breath when there's no when the breaker's turned off, it's a Hantu. And yeah, it cannot turn on the breaker. Jin is the opposite. It cannot turn off the breaker. It can turn it on. It cannot turn it off. When the breaker is on, this thing is fucking nightmare, honestly. When the breaker is on, it has an ability that if it were to turn off the breaker, instead it leaves an EMF 2 at the breaker, and a random player will lose 25 sanity. This thing is a nightmare because you can basically have like the breaker on for like the entire game thinking I'm safe, and then suddenly like it starts hunting you like, what? I should have high sanity. Yeah, this thing can lower your sanity pretty quickly if it wants to. Um while the breaker is on, it will reach its maximum line of sight speed immediately if it sees a player while hunting. But once it gets close to a player, it loses its line of sight speed and has to build it back up again. Um, they are insanely dangerous at times. A mare will never turn on a light, so on Apocalypse, the only way to rule out a mare is if you hear a light switch get toggled. That is it. Like that's the only way to tell if you got a mare. They are rough. The mare also has an ability that if it is nearby the light switch when it happens, if you turn on the light switch, it can immediately turn it off. Oh, they are insane. Morois. The more sanity a player has, the slower it'll be. Sorry, no. The higher the average sanity, the slower it'll be. The lower the average sanity, the faster it'll be. They also have the ability to curse a player. If a player hears a spirit box response, a sound on the paramic, or a sound on the sound recording, it'll curse the player. While the player is cursed, your sanity will drain at double speed, and being in the light will not prevent sanity drain. To remove the curse, you have to take sanity meds. On Apocalypse settings, sanity meds don't do anything, so there's no point. The only point to the sanity no, actually no, even then, you can't sprint in Apocalypse, so never mind. A myling will be quieter when it hunts, and it is more likely to make sounds on the paramic, and I think sound recording as well. I'm not sure about that. Obake, these things, they can shapeshift. So during a hunt, if you see the ghost just change model randomly during the same hunt, it has to be the same hunt, not between different hunts. So like say you've got like I don't know, the baby, right? And the baby is crawling, and then suddenly you get like an old woman appear, and then it's back to the crawling baby. That's an Obake. The Obake also, if you're playing with evidence turned on, the Obake has a 25% chance to leave no UV, because Obakes have UV. There's a 25% chance it will not leave UV. There's also a 1 in 6 chance that when it does leave UV, it'll leave a unique bit of UV. Uh, For a handprint, it'll leave 6 fingers, or on a light switch, it can leave 2 fingerprints. There's also, I don't know how true this is, but the footsteps will also sound different when it steps through salt. However, I'm not entirely certain on that. Obumbos. Oh god, these things. Obumbos have two different states that it constantly switches between every 2 minutes. There's the passive state, in which it'll be slower and has a lower hunting threshold. Then there's the aggressive state, where it'll be faster, but has a higher hunting threshold. And also, Obumbos hunt for less time than normal ghosts, as well, if I'm right in thinking. Oh, I also forgot to mention, demons have an ability where they can hunt whenever. They can just ignore sanity and hunt. They will usually try to hunt at an average sanity of 70 or lower. Dios will try to hunt at an average sanity of 40 or lower. Um, Everything else I've stated is normal. Obumbo, I believe it's 65 or, yeah, 65 when aggressive, 30 when passive, I think. Onis, oh my god, these things. Onis can never do the airball event. So if you get the like the airball that floats towards you and then you get the hissing sound, it cannot be an Oni. Onis can never do that. During a hunt, Onis are more visible. Like, you will see the Oni. So are Dios, actually. Dios are more visible during a hunt, but Onis don't know where you are at all times. These things are more likely to do ghost events as well. Onryo, I got tripped up so many times in my early attempts at playing Phas. Onryos can actually hunt at 60% sanity or lower. So they are more likely to hunt earlier. These things do not like fire, so if there is a flame in their room, they cannot hunt. However, once they blow out 3 flames in a row, they will trigger a hunt. So it will hunt. So a good way to test for an Onryo is to put down 3 candles and a crucifix. And if the 3 candles go out and then the crucifix gets burned, Onryo. But Onryos can hunt earlier than most ghosts. They can hunt at 60 or lower. Phantom, oh my god, these things are dangerous. The Phantom will drain your sanity faster if you look at it. So when you get like the heartbeat sound from a ghost event or anything, it's draining your sanity faster. When you take a picture of a Phantom, it'll instantly disappear. Bear in mind, it will not do that during a hunt. It'll still be there during a hunt. They are less visible during hunts. These things are hard to see during a hunt. But when you take a picture of a Phantom, it'll instantly disappear, and when you look at the ghost photo, you will not see a ghost. But yeah, this is what I got lucky with in my Apocalypse run, my Gold Apocalypse on Sunny Meadows. I walked in, immediately had a ghost event, so I took a photo of the ghost, and there was no ghost in the photo, and that's how I knew it was a Phantom. Polties. If I'm, if it's true, I feel like it's not, but it might be. Polties are the only ghosts that can throw items while the lights are on. They will also be the only ghosts that can make like multiple items levitate at a time and be thrown. During a hunt, Polties are more likely to throw items, so like you will absolutely hear items being thrown. And they can throw items further than other ghosts. Raijus. Raijus will also hunt at 50 sanity. However, if there are electronics in its room, it can hunt at 65. When around electronics, they move faster. However, if there's no electronics nearby, they'll move at normal speed. There's also a bug with the Raiju where when you hear your heartbeat, so like the ghost is doing a ghost event and your heartbeat goes off, it's louder than normal. However, don't rely on that because sometimes I haven't heard it be louder than normal, and it's been a Raiju. Revenant. Oh god, these things are dangerous too. Revenants will be super slow when they do not detect the player. When they do detect the player, they are super fast. They are dangerous. Uh one of my early attempts at Apocalypse, I had a Revenant, so I knew immediately what the ghost was because it was slow. But then I almost died to it because it snuck up behind me and started zooming at me. Shade. These are one of the shyest ghosts. When there's players in their room, they are not gonna do anything. They will not initiate a hunt in the same room as another player. So they may wander out of the room to try to hunt. Um, uh, like, no joke, if you're trying to get evidence from a shade, you actually have to leave the room to let it do its things. A shade will hunt at 35 sanity or less. These things are not likely to hunt, but when they do hunt, they're normal speed. Um, a shade cannot do the singing event. Yeah, it was terrifying. I was like, I know it's hunting. I can't hear it. And then I turn around and I just hear boom, 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 boom. I'm like, oh god, because I was using the paramic to listen out for the ghost while it was hunting, and I couldn't hear it. I turn around and I just hear these fast footsteps running at me. I was like, oh god. A shade cannot do the singing event. So if you hear the ghost singing, it is not a shade. Oh, banshees are also more likely to do the singing event, but that's not a guarantee that it is a banshee. And mares are more likely to do the light exploding event, but again, it doesn't guarantee a mare when you get them. But shades cannot do the singing event, so if you do get the singing event, it is not a shade. Also, with certain cursed objects, if you are to use them to summon the ghost, the shade is the only one that will appear as a shadow. Uh, is the only one that can appear as a shadow. So if you use a cursed object to summon the ghost and you just see a shadow, shade. Good sign that it's a shade. Spirit. These things are just basic. No real defining feature except for when you use a smudge on it. It has to wait 3 minutes to hunt instead of the normal 90 seconds, so a minute and a half. A demon, when you smudge it, has to wait 60 seconds before it can hunt again. Thay, as I stated before, these things will start out young. The more time you spend around it, they will be, they'll age. The youngest, like when the Thay is at its youngest, it can hunt at 75 sanity. It is super fast. It does not get line of sight speed as well. So Thay, Hantu, and Diane are the only ones that will not speed up when they see a player. Um, they will stay at their current speed. Um, when a Thay is at its youngest, it'll hunt at 15 sanity or less. Like the lowest sanity threshold for a ghost. 15 or less. And at its oldest, it can no longer do ghost events. That one I found out recently. Um, but like I said, the best way to figure out a Thay is to ask how old it is on the Ouija board, take note of how old it is, spend some time around the ghost, go back to the Ouija board, ask how old it is again, and have a different result. I'm gonna skip Mimic for now. Twins? Despite what it says, the twins are not two ghosts. They are one ghost that has two interaction ranges. When it interacts, it'll do both interactions at the same time. When it decides to hunt, it'll hunt where it currently is, but it'll pick between one of the two interaction ranges. And depending on which one it picks, you'll either get the fast twin or the slow twin. Oh, you got the twins multiple times the other day. Oh god, I misunderstood the twins for the longest time. I always thought it was two ghosts. It's technically one ghost, but it has two interaction ranges. So if you ever hear, like, say, a door being opened and also an item being thrown at the same time in, like, another room, that's a good indication you got the twins. Yeah, it is a super confusing ghost. The twins will always either be slightly faster or slightly slower during a hunt. They will not be at the normal speed. So if you hear the ghost hunting and it's slightly faster or it's slightly slower, good chance it's the twins. However, they did add the Obambo to confuse people now, on hunt speeds. But the twins will always like do two interactions at the same time. Um, it it is it can be quite confusing. Sometimes the interactions are like right next to each other, so it can be confused for like, oh, the ghost threw an item and then immediately threw a different item. But other times it can be like, say on Tanglewood, like it interacts with the master bedroom door and then it throws an item in the kitchen. At that point, if you hear both of those things happen at the same time, good chance that's the twins. A wraith will never step in salt at all. So if you know where the ghost room is and you put salt down and the salt never gets disturbed, good chance it's a wraith. The wraith can also teleport to a player, and when it does that, it'll either leave EMF 2 or EMF 5. On Apocalypse, this thing can end your run immediately because it can teleport to you and instantly hunt and kill you. It is one of the most dangerous ghosts for Apocalypse. Um, but yeah, these things are will never step in salt. So if you if you place salt down somewhere you know it's gonna wander to, oh yeah, they it's not obvious, but it is a random ability that it can do. In the original game, it did mention like I say the original game back in like 2020 when there were only 12 ghosts. It did mention that the wraith can teleport, but it never like specified on that, and I don't think it was a feature back then, but now it definitely is. It'll teleport to a player and it'll leave either EMF 2 or 5 when it does it. Um yeah, back before they changed like everything. Back when there were only 12 ghosts. Yokai, these things uh these things do not like people talking. Easier times. Yes. Old Phasmo when ghosts didn't have line of sight speed, so the only ghost that could catch up to you was the Revenant. You could outrun every other ghost. Oh, I miss those times. Yokai, they do not like people talking. Um, if you were in the ghost room and you were talking, the yokai can hunt at 80 sanity. But if you're not talking, it's 50. However, during a hunt, these things are so fucking stupid. Um, Ghosts have a detection range from where they can hear and detect electronics on a player. Yokais are shorter. um, Yokais will detect things. I think it's like 1.5 meters, whereas like every other ghost, it's like 4 or 5 meters, something like that. So like a yokai, you could you could do a test for it. It is dangerous because if it's not a yokai, you might get yourself killed. But you could press the global talk button, the radio, and if you hear it like be static, so that like that means the ghost can detect it or is interfering with it. If if you've got a yokai, it will not wander over to you unless if like you did it like really close to it. Yurei, these things, um, these things can only ever fully open. Yes, so when you do that, when you hear the static when trying to like use the radio, it means the ghost is interfering with it. And if it's during a hunt, it means the ghost knows where you are, unless if it's a yokai and it's not close enough. Yurei, these things can only either fully open or fully close a door. They will never partially open a door. They are also the only ghost that can interact with the front door without it being a hunt or a ghost event. So if you don't get a ghost event or a hunt and the front door just randomly closes, it's a Yurei. Um, However, bear in mind, the final ghost that I haven't talked about, the Mimic, This thing can mimic abilities from any other ghost. So when I say something like the Yurei closing the front door, the mimic can do that if it decides to mimic a Yurei. Every minute, the mimic will choose to mimic another ghost type. However, at the beginning of a hunt, it'll just be mimicking itself, which means it's just a normal ghost at that point. Um, it will not mimic evidence off of another ghost. So, like, say for example, the Goryo, right? The Goryo has dots as one of its evidence. The mimic will never show dots because mimic doesn't have dots. Oh, speaking of Gorios, Gorios will only show dots on a video camera when there's no player in its room. That's how annoying they are. um, you will also never see dots for a Gorio in person. The best way to know if it's a mimic is if you get four different pieces of evidence, if you're playing with three evidence. The mimic will always leave orbs, so you see how it, like, cancels out mimic here when I select orbs. Mimic will always show orbs. Um, if you got zero evidence, you'll still see orbs. If you're playing with one evidence, you'll see orbs, and either Spirit Box, Freezing, or UV will show up. If you're playing with two evidence, you'll get orb and then two of these things. And if you're playing with three evidence, you'll get four different evidence things. I always recommend that if you've got evidence for, say, a hunter or Onryo, always check for the other one. So always check for UV if you think it's going to be an Onryo, and always check for Spirit Box if you think it's going to be a hunter. Um, a a mimic always leaves orbs as well. I know I said that. Another great way to determine you've got a mimic is if during one hunt, for example, yeah, helps narrow down based on evidence. Yep. During one hunt, say it's like got a normal speed, right? Like it's moving at a normal speed, and then another hunt goes by, and again it's moving at normal speed. Then a third hunt goes, it's moving at normal speed, and then suddenly there's a fourth hunt, and it's super fast for no reason. There's a good chance that it's a mimic mimicking like a Moroi or a young Fae or something like that. So changes in speed between hunts for no apparent reason can also kind of help you determine that it's a mimic, but it's not always guaranteed. Always try to look for that fourth piece of evidence if your evidence is lining up with a mimic. However, if you do get Ghost Orb, Spirit Box, and UV, you know for certain you've got a mimic because no ghost has these three except for mimic. Because technically the mimic's is these three, technically, but it will always leave an orb. So helpful. I should download the VOD and then just like clip this part. Um, but yeah, it is that is that is from what I've experienced with playing Phas. Um, there are some ghosts. There are some ghosts that, when playing with less evidence, say for example you're playing on Nightmare where there's only two evidence, or Insanity where there's only one. Um, there are ghosts that will be forced to have a specific evidence show up on those ones. So a Dio, if you're playing with one or two, will always have Spirit Box be one of its evidences. Always. If you're playing with none, obviously no evidence shows up. But if you're playing with one or two, a Dio will always have Spirit Box. So if you get, say for example, oh god, what does the Dio have? Writing and Dots. And you're playing on Nightmare where it's two evidence, because you don't have Spirit Box, you can rule out a Dio. Because a Dio will always have Spirit Box as one of its evidences, which means it's either Obumbo or Thay in that situation. Um, Goryo will always have dots be one of its things. God, these things are annoying. Like I said, Goryo will only show dots on a video camera with no one in its room. Oh, they are so annoying. They are so annoying trying to get the dots for them. But dots will be one of its evidences. So if you get UV and EMF5, but not dots on Nightmare, you can rule out Goryo, and in which case it'll be one of these four. Hantu will always have freezing temperatures be one of its evidences. So if you're playing Nightmare and you get UV and Ghost Orb, it's either a Banshee or an Obake at that point, because a Hantu always has to have freezing, because it's part of its ability. It's faster in colder temperatures and slower and warmer. The Moroi, part of its ability is cursing a player, so it has to always have Spirit Box. So if you get Ghost Riding and Freezing, you know it's not a Moroi. It'll have to be one of these three. Welcome back, Olive. You got lots of chores to do. Yeah, that's fair. Obake always will have UV as one of its evidence on Nightmare and Insanity. So if you don't get UV, if you get MF and Orb, it'll either be a Raiju or a Dian instead. I think there's one more. Oh, duh, the other one is Mimic. The Mimic will always have a Ghost Orb, so if you're playing on Nightmare or Insanity, or just any difficulty actually, if you're playing on any difficulty and you do not see a Ghost Orb in the Ghost Room, you can rule out a Mimic. That is the easiest way to rule out a Mimic, is if you do not see Ghost Orbs at all. However, ruling a Mimic is a different thing. Watching this video, let me know if I missed anything. I feel like I didn't do a great job explaining everything, but do let me know if I missed anything. And if you want to check out my streams, because I stream often, follow me on Twitch. I'll leave a link down below, but yeah, I stream on Twitch nearly every day. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!